Introducing the double tail bugger. This is a fly born out of nostalgia and necessity. Here's how you tie it. This is an articulated streamer pattern. The back side is tied on a 1/2 inch offset shank from larva lace. We're going to set that shank into our vise to start and get a base of Danville's 140 denier black thread started on the shank. The tail material is comprised of Bugskin, one of our favorite fly tying materials to use for all predator species. This material is just so lifelike, it keeps its shape and has a ton of movement in the water, and such a natural feel to the material that just makes fish want to eat it. I'm going to start by cutting a small rectangle out of my patch of Bugskin. And you can make your double tail really any shape that you'd like. I cut mine in the shape of a tuning fork. That gives me a small paddle at the end to tie onto the offset shank, and then the double tail on the back side to offer a lot of movement for the fish. But the double tail comes from stock dam fishing as a kid, where we used to use double twist tails and jigs to just destroy largemouth bass. And I wanted to recreate a fly that did something similar, and this material really helps us do that. We want this double tail to hang off the flat side of this offset shank. So it's going to be a bit counterintuitive. We're going to set the paddle portion of that tail on top with the double tail hanging off the right side, and then capture that down on top of the offset shank before bringing thread wraps rearward to secure it into place. Once you get the double tail Bugskin secured into place, time to incorporate a little bit of flash to cover up our thread wraps. I'm going to use Firestar dubbing. This is gunmetal. Dub a small noodle onto the thread and cover up those thread wraps and the tie-in area on that offset shank. And then you can half hitch or whip finish on the back end and then cut your thread. I always like to come in afterwards with a brush and just tease out some of that Firestar on the back end just a little bit. Not a necessary step, but just something I tend to do just to make it a little more buggy looking. I tend to fish this pattern early spring or later in the fall months, and I like to get it down deep. So I'm going to add a large Conehead bead to a size 4 Daiichi 1750 streamer hook. This is a very long shank hook. Once you get the nickel Conehead bead onto your hook shank, secure it into your vise, and we're going to add a little bit of non-lead wire. This is 0.02 non-lead wire. Put a dab of super glue on the hook shank just behind the Conehead bead, and then begin securing your non-lead wire on the back end. Once you get a few turns of non-lead wire on your hook shank, you can break both ends off and secure them down before pushing that non-lead wire into the Conehead bead and over the super glue. This is going to secure that bead tightly to the eye of the hook and hold it in place so it doesn't spin around on the hook shank. You can secure the double tail to the hook shank in any means that you see fit. You can use superline, monofilament. This is some 15-pound predator tippet that I have laying around, so I'm going to use that. Since fish aren't going to be pulling on this tail, there isn't really much need for securing it tightly into place. But to make a solid bulletproof fly, I'm still going to add a little bit of super glue to the hook shank before capturing down one side of this wire leader. Bring thread wraps all the way back. I'm not going to go all the way down the bend of the hook. I want it to stay a little bit higher on the hook shank. And then I'm going to slide my double tail, my offset shank, onto this wire leader material and close that loop on the back side just to make sure that that double tail has a little bit of area to move and yet it's still secure on the back end of the hook. I'm going to go ahead and capture the remaining wire tippet as I bring thread wraps forward on the hook shank. And once I get to the front, I'll just trim off the tag end and then take rearward thread wraps again to get back to the end of the hook. This is a very buggy and lifelike pattern, and it's brought to life by this material called Flex Hackle. It's a double helix cord incorporating flash and superfloss together in tight intervals. It's a one-sided hackle, meaning the material only comes out of one side of this helix. And I love it for making a robust bugger body, adding some punch to a collar around a streamer pattern. I use it as legs on nymphs as well. It gives a punch to streamer patterns. It breathes and undulates underwater, and it's flashy and attractive. It's really hard for fish to resist. I'm going to pull some of the materials out of the cord to just tie that in at the back side, and then leave the rest of it hanging off the back end. Better to have too much than not enough. I've cut off about 6 to 8 inches of flex hackle. Bolster the body a little bit with some more gunmetal. Just make a tight, even body. You can also use like a mylar tinsel or some larvalase mirror flash, something a little more shiny, pushing out from underneath that body. Once we get all the way up to behind the Conehead with our Gunmetal Firestar, we'll begin wrapping that flex hackle forward in relatively close intervals. Take as tight a turns as you think you need to fill up the body of your fly. You could certainly increase the space between your flex hackle wraps, and it would still be a very effective fly. As I wrap the flex hackle forward, I want to preen those materials rearward to make sure that they lay back on the pattern. Continue maneuvering the material as you go forward towards the Conehead bead. And then when you get to the front, make a few capture wraps over the top of that flex hackle material, and then pull everything rearward and make a few wraps in front just to lock it into place. And you can trim off the rest of your flex hackle, add a few half hitches if you desire to save your work. Going to add a final collar of Gunmetal Firestar just behind the Conehead bead, dub a small noodle, and make securing wraps before half hitching or whip finishing and trimming my excess thread. It's fun to play around with these offset shanks and create articulated patterns that have a lot of movement and flash and color. This is primarily a bass fly for me, but has caught other predator species that just can't resist. Hope you tie some up, and I hope it helps you catch some fish where you are. Here's all the materials you're going to need to tie the double tail bugger. Head down to your local fly shop first and ask them for larvalase by name. If they don't carry it, they can sure go to hagensfish.com or download our catalog for the best quality fly tying materials on the market. Larvalase is a component of Hagens out of Mitchell, South Dakota, one of the foremost worldwide distributors of lure components, quality fishing gear, and fly tying materials. If this video has helped in any way, please consider subscribing to our channel to make sure you get monthly updates from us, and share it with your fly fishing networks. We just want to help people catch more fish. If you use Larvalase products to do it, that would be awesome. There are many options out there, so any materials you put to the vise to get it done is going to make you a better angler. Hope that this gives you some inspiration. We appreciate you being a part of the Larvalase community. Here's to tight lines and well-tied flies.